Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, exactly after 5 months, United Nations, international community, democracies and human rights champions all failed. Despite of International Court of Justice ruling, or what you can say orders, illegitimate state of Israel and its occupation forces. They have continued their genocide and war crimes in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. As a result of Israeli brutalities, more than 31,000 of the innocent civilians killed and more than 73,000 of the civilians are injured. Even in the holy month of Ramadan, these brutalities continued. Unfortunately, there is no sign of ceasefire. More than 1 million Palestinian refugees, they urgently need food, water, medicine, medical care, shelter, as children, pregnant women and elderly people are the most sufferers because of hunger and famine-like situation. Beside Israeli brutal forces' worst bombardment and ground assault, now they are looting the belongings of either deceased or displaced Palestinians, like gold, ornaments, cash, even the floor tiles, the artifacts, the precious one. Also, the fresh water resources, not only in the northern but also in the central Gaza. Israeli illegitimate government, by swearly violating international law, Geneva and Hague Convention, UN Convention on the Law of Seas, humanitarian law, at least awarded 6 licenses to not only the Israeli companies but also the Western companies to explore natural gas reserves into the Palestinian waters. So this is going to be the core issue which we are going to discuss, and for that matter we have in our studios Brigadier retired Hamid Rasheed Malik. He is the senior analyst. Most welcome to you, Brigadier Sahab. Thank you very much for your presence in studios. And online joining us, Brigadier retired Ghazanfar Shah. He is the senior defense expert. Most welcome to you, Shah Sahab. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we are talking about Brigadier Hamid, why international community is completely silent on what unprecedented, unbelievable and unimaginable war crimes and genocide committed by the illegitimate state of Israel in Palestine, particularly in Gaza?
It is very difficult to believe that the world has forgotten about the human rights, about the freedom of human and also the suffering of innocent Palestinians. Because in the world what we see that the Europe and America has been the trumpeteers of the human rights, and they were the one who introduced human rights in the world, and there are about 30 conventions of UN which safeguard human rights. But when it comes to the Muslims and especially the Kashmiris and the Palestinians, we see that world is weak about it.
Yeah, definitely whole of the West is actually drum beating democracy and the human rights, but
yes.
In case of Palestinians, they are supporting the brutalities of Israeli illegitimate government, illegitimate state.
Yes. As far as the state level is concerned, yes, there is a complete silence, and what we have seen in the UN Security Council also, that all the resolution has been met with a veto by America. These has not been implemented in letter and spirit.
Obviously, yes.
But what we see that now there are certain organization and human rights world over are staging protest in their respective countries, and I think with passage of time may this voice get more and more stronger. But at the same time, that what we see that Ramadan is there is a hunger in Palestine. The people are not getting the humanitarian assistance.
It's
also.
a famine. It's a famine-like
Yes.
situation right
and
now.
they are subjected to diseases, they are subjected to hunger, and apart from that they are subjected to indiscriminate firing. Just see the sorry state of affairs and horrifying fact that the Palestinian who lined up for humanitarian assistance at the aid camp, they were shelled, they were bombarded, and there were casualties. About 130 Palestinians perished in that attack. Now this is very I think strange event on which the world should take heed to that, and they should at least ask Israelis not to go for that horrifying and barbaric acts, and they should also have some cushion and safety for the Palestinian, and at least they have some access to medicine, some access to food.
But yeah, definitely, you are absolutely right. Brigadier Ghazanfar, when we are talking about the overall the military norms or ethics. Now reports coming that Israeli occupation forces are looting the properties and belongings of the deceased or the displaced Palestinians, and particularly they have started this whole gambit from northern and central Gaza. How do you see it? Do you think that you were a decorated soldier, so how do you see this? Do you not think that there must have to be some military ethics in that as well?
Faisal, thank you very much. Well, I see it in a very greater detailed background, not of today, but starting from 1870. And then I see in a background of 1948, when the British forces unleashed a reign of terror and they burned 500 villages and killed 20,000 people. I see in the light of First Intifada, I see in the light of Second Intifada, I see in the light of the tenure of the Barack Obama, when Israeli fired munitions, they developed a new target bombing, crystal bombs, point blank bombs, and they tested it on Palestine. I see it in that background. That background is contributed as a very famous Israeli author, Ilan Papa, who's himself a Jew, but he's against the genocide. And he's a very well-read and well-written philosopher. He delivers talks in America and delivering it nowadays also. Whatever he said that every generation of the Palestinian have passed through the crisis of the genocide and apartheid and the Israeli brutalities. I see it in that background, and that is continuing. And you know, if you calculate today, they say that 80,000 tons of explosive have been used in Gaza against the people. And if 80,000 you divide it by 34,000 people killed, which are reported, those who are unreported is not known till today. And most of them are women and children. So it comes to 23 kg explosive for every citizen of Gaza. And Gaza had been under the occupation, right? It was under the occupation of the Egypt also. And then 1967 war saw the brutalities. But what is to be considered today is in the light of the realities which you know and I know, and daily we see it, the report comes onto the main media, blocks it, CNN blocks it, Fox News blocks it. But now the Fox News and CNN have also, I was listening to Christian Amanpour interview with one of the Israeli defense minister, and she really pointed out, she said, you are killing people, you are undertaking the genocide. Right, you talking with the aid distribution was there, and people went, and Israeli army fired, Israeli tanks fired onto them, and there were 130 Palestinians got shaheed. So Israeli defense forces issued and communicate that it was done because people were attacking us. The question does not end on should or are or your my wishes. Well, we have some wishes in case of Ramadan also, and in case of the brutalities and the human rights violation there. But forget about human rights violation. For the Western countries, a man like Joe Biden, he in power, you can forget about all the human rights. They are the champions of human rights violation. American administration had been orchestrating, funding, organizing terrorism in whole of the world. They started, Vietnam is an example, Afghanistan is an example, where they destroyed Afghanistan on the wrong.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, Brigadier Ghazanfar. Yes, you are absolutely right, because we have lots of examples, more than dozens of examples that Americans are always supporting genocide in most of the parts. Even their military is doing it from the last many years. So, Brigadier Hamid, when we are talking about, as Brigadier Ghazanfar well elaborated, that how do you see particularly the looting of those artifacts and the historical things which were there in Gaza, and now how do you see that this Israel is just put those things at display in Nasset and in the occupied territories within Israel? So how do you see that one can imagine that what the Israeli military acting as a thief?
I think it is unimaginable. You very rightly highlighted that by any code of ethics, any code of military law, because the Geneva Convention is there, and all such acts are basically attributed as war crime. And it is no doubt, it is a war crime that the Israeli forces are looting Palestinian are their national heritage also.
Yes, yes.
Because there
Yes.
is also international law which prevents looting or even capturing such artifacts of any country, or even if any country is invaded, those historical artifacts remain the part and parcel of that nation. But here what we see that they have not only looted, they had the audacity to even go for a public show of that, which is again shows that the Israeli irresponsible government, but illegitimate government also, because the government also does not understand what are the international standards, what are the international rules they are to comply with, and they have to respect not only the neighbors' rights and laws, they need to respect the international laws about this. And when we come of the international rules, we see the Geneva Convention very clearly highlights that any looting or plundering by the military force is a war crime, and South Africa has already gone to ICJ, and I think ICJ should also take note of it, and it is evidenced by
But
itself.
ICJ is sincerely taking notes of all these things, and there were at least 3 orders which were passed. Those were the mayors which already issued, but unfortunately Israel has not even accepted that. Even some sort of falsified and fake response was also submitted into the court, and this is the situation, and international community is helping Israel rather than cursing it.
I think this is a point of concern for every human rights activist, as well as everybody who wants that it should be a free world and humans should be equal to each other.
Definitely.
And I think here the international community, especially the Muslim Ummah, should take note of it, that when there are clear orders by ICJ, now implementation is with the big powers, either it is America, European Union, or even China or Russia. And I think Pakistan has been always in the forefront, that it has already highlighted.
But unfortunately, these facts of looting and plundering and pillaging not highlighted even by the Muslim media,
Yeah.
even by the some of the Islamic countries. They have never, but some, only few, they are actually highlighting it, and this is going to be very dangerous precedent which the Israel is setting right now. So, Brigadier Ghazanfar, when we are talking about, there are several reports which are coming straight away from the occupied territories and in Gaza, particularly in northern and central Gaza, that Israeli forces now busy in exploiting freshwater resources, and they are pumping it to their territory under occupation. So how do you see this aspect? Because Palestinians are suffering even for a single drop of water, and these brutal forces are pumping water to their territory under occupation.
Well, Israelis are going to do anything. Netanyahu has made a clear example of it. They are going to kill people, they are to eliminate people, and it is, I will again say, it is the behest of the American administration and the American Congress they are doing it. There are 2 things very clearly which you have to see. The intelligence assessment which has been issued by CIA, and it has been debated in the American Congress also. And that intelligence assessment report about Gaza says that Israel is never going to finish Hamas, and the struggle for the resistance of Islam, Hamas is going to continue. Rather, the tunnel warfare and the Hamas resistance is going to enhance in the coming days. So, now stop here for a moment. When the American Intelligence Assessment Committee says these things, that Israel is not going to win and the Hamas resistance is going to continue, on top of that, the world says that Israel is taking a genocide. Malaysia has taken a stand recently. Turkish president says, in spite of that, Americans are still funding Israel with the clash of the weapons, irrespective that they have not taken the Congress sanctions even. The day before yesterday, the CIA director was questioned by the American senators in the Congressional Committee that why are you aiding, why are you supporting? But there are, because the Americans under the leadership of Joe Biden want to exterminate Gaza totally. They want to kill the civilians. There's a combined agenda As in 82, Joe Biden had already said when he was in the Congress, in the Foreign Affairs Committee, that if there was no Israel, we would have to invent one Israel. So you can see the love of Joe Biden for that state which is undertaking a massive genocide. It means that
definitely, and they are paying the brunt. Joe Biden is also paying the brunt during the electoral process which is going on in the United States right now, because that is there now. When Brigadier Hamid, when we are talking about how do you see, as we are on that particular issue of looting the resources of the innocent Palestinians, which belongs to Palestine, state of Palestine, not to the illegitimate state of Israel. The confirmed reports are that the foreign, including the European companies, they were now assisting the occupied illegitimate state of Israel, looting Gaza natural resources, particularly the natural gas reserves which are there in the Mediterranean Sea. And that area belongs to the exclusive economic zone of the Palestinian state. So these are now those countries or those companies or union, particularly the European Union, they are advocating human rights and democracies and law and international law particularly. So why they are violating it?
If we put in simple words that when Israeli attacked Gaza and especially the innocent Palestinians, it was a jigsaw puzzle, that whether it is self-defense and what else. But now what we see, that it was the hunger and lust for those maritime resources of Gaza, which was basically the objective of Israel's invasion of Gaza, because they wanted to capture those maritime area which belongs to Palestinian. As per the 2019, that area has been declared as the maritime zone of the Palestinian and Gaza, and as per the United Nations law of seas. So from that point, what we see, that this is blatant action by the Israelis against the poor country of Palestine. And
so
here
initially
double standard.
Israel's so-called Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, those have issued a tender, and then afterwards 6 licenses were awarded, and now they are starting work there, and in Mediterranean Sea some of the Israeli naval ships, frigates were seen, and they were guarding those ships who are actually drilling over there. So they have started their work. So it seems that they are snatching everything from Palestinians.
This is the fact of life, that the Palestinians, they are not only robbed of their freedom, they are robbed of their natural resources also. As you said, that Israel has shortage of water, and it is drilling water from Palestinian soil, which means there will be scarcity of water for Palestinian times to come.
Obviously.
And on the other hand also, as you said, that the Israeli government has no right to tender the area which belongs to Palestinians. And at the same time, this all illegal activity which has taken place of tendering and giving license to the 6 companies, this is basically shows that the international community silence over the Israeli invasion of Gaza is breeding more contempt for the Palestinians.
Definitely.
More suffering for the Palestinians.
Your point well taken. Your point well taken. Brigadier Ghazanfar Sahab, Palestinians are the party to the UN Convention on the Law of Seas, and they have the declared maritime boundaries. On the other hand, Israel is not the party or not the signatory to that convention, the Law of Sea. So why the European Union and other Western allies jumped in to assist Israel to have to plunder those natural gas reserves from the Mediterranean Sea, which belongs to that area, particularly belongs to the Palestinians?
For a very brief, you have to see the background of the wars in the world. And if you see the background of the wars in the world till now, you will see that every war has been fought for the energy resources. You see Iran, when Mossadegh was toppled, why? Mossadegh was toppled because he had nationalized the Iranian oil. And then American and British got put up. Go back to the Iraq war. What happened in Iraq war? What did Condoleezza Rice did? How did they steal? How did they plunder the oil wells in Iraq? They took all the energy. They are still taking. There was a ship which used to be. There was a container, a liner which used to be run by the name of Condoleezza Rice.
Unfortunately, so United States has the history of looting different countries. Yes, you are absolutely right.
This war, it is the United States also, and it is the oil company. You must have seen the cartel of the seven oil companies.
Yes,
That is
yes.
very clearly given the story of Seven Sisters. You must have seen that. That how did the Seven Sisters combine together? All these oil companies generate war into the world for expansion of their, and this is the same is happening as you said. The contract, there's a EEC, exclusive economic zone also, and there's a right of Palestinian onto the gas and the oil resources which are present into their own territory. But what did Netanyahu said? Before start of the war, there was a tender which was floated, and there were, I think, two oil companies were given the contract of exploration of the gas and the oil, and they had started their work. So now they want to expand their work, and since the oil companies are involved into these initiation of the war and initiation of this, they fund these. What happened in African countries
Yeah,
when
definitely,
the oil was
definitely.
closed?
Brigadier Ghazanfar sir, thank you. Your point well taken. Brigadier Hamid, when we are talking about, it's not surprising what the Israel is actually doing because they have a history of doing that. So when these companies are involved in exploration, there is a European company, the Italian, the British, the Korean, South Korean company, and all others. So this is they are doing at the time when heightened brutalities, bombardment, ground assault is going on in Gaza. And even as what the International Court of Justice identify as a plausible case of genocide. So how do you see it that, do you think that it stops somewhere?
It is going to stop somewhere, because what we believe, that being optimists, we need to realize that the pluses of the moral code as well as the ethics will mean that ethically they should understand. So there is a business also, but in business also there are moral and ethical code which has to be obeyed and complied with. And I think these 6 companies should also understand that they are violating the space which belongs to the Palestinian, and they have got no right to get a license from Israel for drilling in that specific area.
Do you think an occupied state, an illegitimate state, issuing a tender and then the licenses, and some companies are coming, so whether it is against the international law, it is against the international norms, the humanitarian law, it's against the Geneva and Hague conventions, it is against the customary laws as well. So how do you see it, because they are violating each and every law?
I would link it to a statement you gave earlier, that the ICJ has determined the Israeli invasion as a possible case of genocide. And if that is the case, these 6 companies should need to understand they are supporting a state which is going for genocide of the poor Palestinian, innocent Palestinians. And from that point of view, I think there will be much more pressure, moral pressure on these companies also. And at the same time, what we have seen now in the world, that there is another campaign which says that so and so franchise or a company is supporting Israel, so there should be some blockade of that or some side of. And I think if these companies are going to support Israel, so there will be a backlash coming from the Muslim countries and the Muslim Ummah, and that
right.
should be natural course.
Running short of time. Thank you very much for your presence in the studios. Thank you very much, Brigadier Hamid. When we are talking about, Brigadier Ghazanfar, about the international community's obligations, the human rights organizations, on 8th of February, 4 human rights organizations in Israel and Palestine, I'm repeating it, Adala, Al-Mizan, Al-Haq and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, they voiced against these tenders, these companies, these licenses were issued, they voiced against it, and they appealed from the international community that must have to be stopped. So how do you see that?
Yes, human rights. Look, the human rights organization, whatever they are doing as part of their organization. They have no authority to get the things imposed. One, and the second thing is, if you have to see that the people who are responsible for imposing some sort of ceasefire into the Gaza, the people who they are not interested. One, why are not interested? You have to see a clear demarcation. As I told you, there are only 2 Muslim countries which today raise their voice. The rest of the Muslim countries did speak in the 57-member conference in ICJ, but that speaking was only restricting to conveying their message. And the message was that Israel is undertaking a genocide. Now we talk of ICJ. ICJ is a court which can ask the United Nations Security Council. There is a UNO force available to undertake, to implement the physical measure. You tell me, is there a country which is asking somebody to undertake the physical measure? What does that mean? That shows that the killing of the Palestinians is continue. The table of the resolutions will continue to come. The conferences will continue to be held. Physical stoppages which is required in part of the Palestinian rights, in part of their economic rights, in part of their social rights, they are dying. Now it's a month of Ramzan. We are going to, today is Friday. People like to offer namaz in Masjid Aqsa. There's Jumat al-Wada coming.
Yeah, definitely there are lots of barricades and barriers and hurdles for all the Muslims residing there in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. So you are absolutely right. Viewers, here we welcome our next guest. She is Saira Ijaz, joining us here in the studios. She is the senior analyst. Thank you very much, Saira, for being with us here in the studios. My question is that where are the democratic norms and where are the respect of human rights when whole of the West, particularly the European Union, they are supporting Israel to murder innocent Gaza people, have famine, halted the Palestinian refugee agency, the UNRWA, and their funding particularly, exploiting Palestinian resources now and become part of illegal gas exploration project as well. So they are encouraging theft. They are encouraging every illegal move which an illegitimate state of Israel is doing right now. How do you respond to this?
Actually, there is a larger picture behind all this horrific thing going on in Palestine and in the Middle East. And now recently Biden by himself said that this 7th October attack or this Israel-Palestine war is going to change the map of the world. And I think there is a larger agenda behind it, because everybody knows that that these Israelis, these Jewish Zionists are illegally occupying someone else's land. And they are claiming that it's their land. And I think now it's a time to realize and to look beyond the optics. I think now they have made their mind that they are not going towards a two-state solution even, which is even, you know, okay, then you take my land, okay, fine, you are more powerful, you are everything, but at least you divide it in half.
So do you think that after 1948 Nakba, it is going to be a worst kind of Nakba now in 2024 when Palestinians don't have the right even to have a sigh of relief, even they can't breathe, they can't have a drop of water, they can't have the food, they can't have any medicine, they don't have hospitals, everything is bombarded by the illegitimate state of Israel. Do you think that they don't have any right in this world of apparently the humans who respect apparently the human rights?
This current scenario is far, far worse, horrific and bad than the earlier Nakba. Now I was going through those details of earlier Nakba. It was nothing in comparison to the what's going on here. Even the refugees are not safe in the refuge camps. Okay, I have run away, I have been pushed to some other place. Even there I am not safe. My hospitals, pregnant women's, children's, food is not being given to us on the places where we were asked to go. So I think in the earlier Nakba only 7,50,000 Palestinians were displaced. Now 2 million, more than 20 lakh people have been displaced. More than 32 people have been killed.
Your point well taken. Your point well taken. Brigadier Ghazanfar, how do you see it right now? Do you think that illegitimate state of Israel, along with the assistance of the West, they are now annexing rest of the Palestinian lands, their maritime resources, all of other precious resources and their properties as well?
You see, Financial Times wrote about 4 weeks back. They said Israel or the West or they refer to Americans, they have no plan agreed for the post-war Gaza settlement.
If you
What
just
does
be
that
brief, Brigadier Retired Ghazanfar sir.
but that means that the atrocities which I would just say one word, and the words are that the atrocities which are happening in Gaza are going to continue because the American coalition and the Israel coalition and the Europe coalition, they want to kill every Palestinian into the Gaza and Rafah. And that is what they are underdoing. And the world is only issuing the statements, declarations, and conferences. If ICJ wants to do something, and it should have not given 1 month to Israel to report about the genocide. They should have taken a eradicative action immediately. South Africa had presented a 84-page, very comprehensive document, but ICJ did not do it. It means they only want rhetoric to go on. They only want statements.
ICJ issued orders, and after that some of the additional measures, but unfortunately nothing done on the part of particularly the West, who are supporting the illegitimate state of Israel. Thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Ghazanfar Ali Shah, for your precious time and for your presence online. Thank you very much. Saira, when we are talking about the war in Gaza, it's the kind of a convenient cover, basically, at the grand scale, to have theft and to plunder the land resources, the maritime resources, even the gas reserves and all that. Do you think it's the same case?
I think there is a systematic planning behind it. It's not a matter of these for the last 5-6 months. In the West Bank, and particularly in the West Bank and in Gaza, there are illegal settlers, Jewish settlers, Jewish settlements. You know what? And this is almost 10% of the total Israeli Jewish population, which is not a small number, I tell you. So there is a systematic plan behind it. And Netanyahu openly says that I'm the only one who can resist this two-state solution thing. And now even the sane voices, you must have gone through that international media reporting that,
yes,
that the sane voices within the US, Jewish American senator has raised this voice that there should be fresh elections in Israel so that there could be a sigh of relief, because even now it's impossible for them, and it is getting very hard for the US and for the senior politicians who are Jewish even to, you know, to curb and to resist the pressure being developed.
So why is so that the Russian soldiers in Ukraine are documented, and even their acts are exaggerated by the international media, but hardly pay any attention to the brutal Israeli war crimes in and pillaging in Gaza?
Again, there is international agendas. It's the superpower who is going to manipulate its and implement its agenda. And in Ukraine, they want to, you know, they have their own strategic interests. Over here in the Middle East, they have their own strategic interests. But I'm telling you that now time has come that it is getting very difficult, even for the West, even for the US, to resist the pressure of the media and of the ongoing war crimes. But somehow they are managing to do it.
Do you think that in the recent history we have two crises? One is Ukraine. We have lots of other crises as well, but Ukraine and Palestine. On both things, approach is entirely different. International law is same, but application is entirely different. So do you think that international law is dying, and United Nations as an institution, as an international institution to maintain peace is actually weakened by design?
I agree with you, and I think there is no comparison of the atrocities or war crimes being held in Ukraine and being held in Palestine. For God's sake, there is no comparison.
Definitely.
We have not heard that Ukrainians, definitely, they must be suffering. War is never a good thing for any country. Definitely, they must be suffering, but they are being pushed or they are being displaced, but on that displaced place, they are safe at least. They are getting sport, they are getting food, they are not being bombarded, you know. Definitely that's not a very good situation. Obviously. But over here there is no comparison between any incident, any war with Palestine. Obviously. But I guess I agree that the international law and the authenticity and the credibility of UN has been badly ruptured, I would say, and damaged, and UN has, disappointed.
Yeah, definitely.
All
Thank you
the
very much,
Muslims.
Saira,
Thank
for being here in the studios. Thank you very much for very elaborative and candid views. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, and they are all agreed that this is what is happening in Gaza, particularly, even in the West Bank by the settlers. This is all pre-planned, and it is a systematic genocide and war crimes which are going on at the hands of illegitimate state of Israel and its occupation forces, particularly in Gaza and West Bank as well. And now how they are plundering the resources, the precious resources of the Palestinians, not only in the Mediterranean Sea, which belongs to Palestine, state of Palestine, but also at the land regarding the freshwater resources, and how they are actually doing it with the belongings of and the properties of either deceased or the displaced Palestinians. This is all unfortunate which is going on, and international law is nowhere to act right now. There is no United Nations, unfortunately. Security Council completely failed because of the veto power to the United States, which is continuously supporting illegitimate state of Israel. 80,000 tons of explosives used in Gaza right now. 23 kg of the explosive actually bombarded at a single individual in Gaza. This is unfortunately a dire situation. There is a holy month of Ramadan, and along with that, now the Palestinians who are the refugees, children, pregnant women, and elderly people, they are suffering very hard because of the famine. They don't have any food, water, shelter, medicine, or the medical facility available. This is high time that international community, particularly the Islamic countries, they must have to act now, because this is the time of action. This is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.